Oldest known ancestor looked like, and it's something of a surprise. They believe the so-called Cheddar Man, a 10,000-year-old skeleton, has...
Now they trying to act naive, talking about it's a bit of a surprise. Yeah, right. Y'all been new. This is old news. We already knew the oldest Europeans, so-called Europeans, were Moors. It's old news.
Skin that was dark to black and blue eyes. Researchers were able to sequence his genome for the first time to establish aspects of his appearance. He was discovered in Cheddar Gorge in Somerset, and John Kay is there for us now. And John, this is not what scientists expected to find.
It's not, and those scientists and people around here, Fiona, are very excited indeed, because...
There they go, acting naive if this is not old news. They got all type of books written on this, and they know this. This is a political... You got to realize the political ramifications of this, and they're going to go into it more when they add the video further on.
For 10,000 years, Cheddar Man lay undisturbed, undiscovered in this cave beneath Cheddar Gorge, and this replica is how we've tended to think of him, as a skeleton, as a pile of bones, but now we can see him almost as a real-life human being.
1, 2, 3, wow.
Putting flesh on his bones, the face of Cheddar Man finally revealed. By extracting his DNA and scanning his skull, experts say they've created him in unprecedented detail, and he looks very different from what they were expecting.
The hair, the eyes, the face, that combination of blue eyes and dark skin, really very striking, something we wouldn't have imagined. And to also get from the DNA, details of his biology, the fact that...
Now this is a contradiction from the recent Cleopatra skeleton or sculpture based on DNA that they've recently came out with, saying that she is, in the sculpture kind of looks like a European. Now that's contradiction of the whole understanding of DNA and genetic understanding, because you know that pale skin genetic marker didn't come on the planet, and you can actually trace it. You can know it didn't come on the planet, just like they're talking about how now they can kind of see what the lifestyle of these people, these original British, were, because he was lactose intolerant. So you can understand how we can actually get a glimpse of a certain group of people's lifestyle in the past based on their genetic dispositions. So they're speaking on that. So this is a contradiction to them revealing that Cleopatra was a pale-skinned person. If they saying the original Britons were dark-skinned, that would be a contradiction right there. So we go in further on this.
He couldn't digest milk as an adult. That's something that came really with the advent of farming, and 10,000 years ago people in Britain didn't have that.
Look how he's changed. This is what scientists used to think he looked like. A reconstruction from 20 years ago when DNA analysis was nowhere near as developed.
And they are trying to trace their lineage to these group of people. But once you understand what mutation is, a mutation is a far removal or basically an error in the DNA replication that is kind of far removed from the original genes that it came from. So they're attempting to trace their lineage, and they call mutation evolution. They call mutation evolution. If you understand genetics, you will understand that evolution, they're calling evolution if evolution is a step up, but evolution is just adaptation to a particular climatic factor that you're living in, or a particular environmental space that you're living in. They're trying to associate it with mutation, when mutation is basically an error in the DNA. It's a recessive gene.
Cheddar Man and I share a common
Relative.
This is modern day Cheddar Man. Adrian Target lives in the same village and shares DNA with the skeleton found in the gorge. So, time to meet his ancestor. Do you want to see your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather? Okay, here he comes. And
Oh my.
what do you think?
It's remarkable, isn't it? I think there is probably some resemblance. But yes, I think that's. I think there are certainly other members in my family who he bears a resemblance to, yes. So of my cousins. Yes.
You can see that in there.
Yes. I think my eyes are blue. That's fine.
Let's have a look. They are blue.
Yes, they are.
See, and they're trying to act naive. Again, here we go. They're trying to act. Now, everyone knows that the ruling classes in Europe trace their lineage back to what's called the black nobility. These are the darker skinned people who originated in those areas. This is how they are able to claim rulership in the area, because of these certain concepts of rulership based on lineage.
They are blue. His hair's not quite as grey as mine is.
Are you sleeping on the floor tonight?
Or my beard.
You talk to them.
So, 10,000 years after he died, 100 years after he was found, finally a face to fit the name of Adrian's ancestor. John Kay, BBC News, Cheddar in Somerset.
Now, 10,000 years ago, Britons would have been black, according to groundbreaking genome analysis. A team from London's Natural History Museum carried out DNA tests on the Stone Age Cheddar Man, Britain's oldest near...
For the record, this is not intended for copyright infringement. This is just for educational purposes, and I'm just spreading the information. That's all this is for. I'm not intending to infringe on their copyrighted material here on the BBC. For the record.
Complete human skeleton. Scientists then used the data to complete a facial reconstruction, with surprising for some results, as our science editor Tom Clark reports.
He was found in Goff's Cave in Cheddar Gorge in Somerset in 1903. Cheddar Man has long been believed to be the oldest known complete skeleton from a time when humans came to live in Britain permanently. And it's long been assumed he's as white as cheddar. Here's a previous reconstruction of his face. But now Cheddar Man's DNA has revealed he looked very different indeed. That's right, the first resident Britons were black, with blue eyes and wavy hair. Researchers have
They attempted to denationalize them by calling them black, but they were Moors. Don't let them fool you by narrowing it down to that, oh, they were black people. Black people didn't exist at this time. What are you talking about? Black is a new political designation. Now, there was a caste system of so-called black or white, but it was just a caste system. It had nothing to do with racial identity at all. So they're trying to mislead you still in this whole interview, in this whole expose, you know what I'm saying, our newscast. They're trying to mislead you again by calling the original people of Britain black. They weren't black, they were Moors.
That our ancestors were darker skinned than we were, but they had no idea that some of them could be this dark. And for those of us who identify as being white British, it's now reasonable to ask, well, what does that actually mean, given at least 10% of our ancestry is shared with this group of people?
Now, we have to understand the dynamics of what's going on in Britain today, how there's a big issue of immigration going on in that area in Britain right now, and now the conversation has changed because of this recent finding. They're going to speak more on it. I don't know if I'm going to do the whole video, but I should do the whole video so y'all can just really get the full aspect. They're admitting it now. They're just basically admitting it, and you got to realize why they're admitting. It's a deeper level. I'll probably do another video on that, but just this is real.
With Cheddar Man, actually, this part of the skull is still intact. What we did, this part is more broken away, so we were able to go in through here. Yeah, and drill a very tiny hole.
A documentary due to be broadcast next Sunday followed Dr. Brace and colleagues at the Natural History Museum in London as they used the latest DNA techniques to obtain a sample from the bone around the inner ear of Cheddar Man's skull. They managed to extract nearly his entire genetic code and all the details that contains, like skin and eye colour.
It was a surprise of just how dark the pigmentation is for Cheddar Man.
Yeah, they go act naive. They're surprised how dark.
So it's really interesting
Oh my
for us
God.
as scientists to sort of be pinpointing when these kind of things happened. But what we've actually seen is that these darker pigmentations were actually surviving in these colder climates for a lot longer than we had anticipated. Probably to do with diet.
Cheddar Man's ancestors left Africa about 40,000 years ago. At this time, much of northern Europe, including Britain, was being covered in ice. Around 10,000 years ago, the ice retreated, but what we now call Britain was connected to the continent by a land bridge called Doggerland. It was across that Cheddar Man's ancestors colonised Britain. There's been people here ever since. We now know Cheddar Man belonged to a group called the Western Hunter-Gatherers, who arrived here before Neolithic people brought farming to Britain about 6,000 years ago.
1, 2, 3, come on!
The new data allowed Dutch twins Ari and Alphonse Kennis to reconstruct Cheddar Man's face.
Years ago we made reconstruction, we know nothing about of skin color and things. But now with the new DNA evidence, with eye color, skin color, hair color, we get some extra evidence how it would look like. And it's amazingly prominent skin color, hairstyle.
For the scientists, the trove of information in Cheddar Man's DNA makes the colour of his skin kind of superficial.
It can tell us about their lifestyle as well. It can tell us that they do not have the genes that allow you to process drinking milk. They also probably wouldn't have been, well, Cheddar Man probably wouldn't have been able to tolerate any kind of alcohol. So we can tell all sorts of things about lifestyle as well.
The researchers are now extracting DNA from hundreds of human remains from before and after Cheddar Man's death 10,000 years ago. They hope to construct the most complete picture yet of our recent ancestors.
Tom Clark, well, with me now, the historian Subhadra Das, Museum Curator of Science and Medicine at University College London Collections, and the journalist and author Afua Hirsch. Subhadra Das, what was your first reaction?
I have to admit, I'm not proud of my first reaction when I saw the model. I immediately thought catfish. But in terms of an initial reaction, this is a really exciting model to see.
But you weren't surprised?
Not at all, no. In terms of the skin colour, no, not at all.
Afua?
I wasn't surprised in the sense that I am very aware that the race in this country is fluid and that there are lots of patterns and ways of immigration stretch back thousands of years. But to see Cheddar Man with his dark skin, it definitely provoked quite an emotional response in me, and I think that's the power of this. It's one thing to know that there were black people here thousands of years ago, and to know that white people weren't always white, but to see...
There weren't just black people, there's no evidence that there were white people.
See, now she's using these ambiguous terms, black and white again, and the sister, the other, she's a sister, that's a Moorish sister, obviously a mixed Moorish sister right there, but it's another sister, the other sister that's going to speak, she's going to break that all down, that there's no such thing as race.
No, but we know that there were Africans here before there were English people here, for example, and so through that gives you a sense of the idea that there's this indigenous British person who is white and essentially British is a fiction. You know, it's a narrative that was created over time. It's not based on scientific facts. So this is another feature of that, really. But still, I think to see it does connect you with that history in a new way.
I mean, does this make a mockery of the whole idea of race?
In terms of the idea that race is a social construct, yeah, it absolutely does. Because if your idea is that the way that you look is the way that...
Haven't Moore's been saying this stuff for years? Race is a social construct? Okay, now the experts are saying it. Scientists and experts are saying it. So I don't want to hear none of y'all when I'm speaking. I'm speaking science.
That you are, if your body and your physical appearance code for things beyond that physical appearance, things like your behaviour and your character, then it certainly does, because up until relatively recently, this person looked very different from how a lot of people imagined that he did.
But at the same time, we know race is a social construct, but the fact that this story is provoking such reaction, that people are talking about it so much, it just goes to show how deeply entrenched our concepts of race and our preconceptions are, because I think everyone's quite surprised.
But I mean, a lot of the reaction has been, ha ha ha, this is going to be a nightmare for the racists, you know, what are they going to do? But I mean, has it challenged at all your own sense of who you are? Do you feel any more British tonight?
I think there is still a very real sense in this country that to be British is somehow to be white, that Britishness is essentially white, and the less white you are, the less British you are. And I think, as a mixed race woman growing up in this country, I think I would have had a different sense about how white Britishness is if I'd have known that original British people 10,000 years ago looked like this.
I mean, a lot of us who are British also slightly feel like outsiders because of